Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside Asian Success. I'm Jenny Yu, founder of Himalaya Quantitative Solutions. Today is my great privilege and honor to interview Bok Ji, entrepreneur and former vice president at Cisco. Bok, thank you for being here.
Hi, Jenny.
Our today's conversation is about fear of failure in startups. Bok, can you briefly share your career path and your cultural background?
Real briefly, and I'll try to just touch on the high points. So actually, I was born in California. My father came over from China, my mother too, and I was born in California many years ago, 1949. Grew up in Northern California, went to Stanford, worked for Hewlett Packard for a number of years, and decided I wanted to move up in management, and went back to Harvard, got an MBA. Then came back to Silicon Valley, and in a nutshell, got involved in 6 startups. 3 failed terribly, and 3 were successful. I had 1 IPO, all in computer networking, 1 IPO, and I was acquired by Cisco twice.
Statistics show 99% of startups fail. You clearly knew the odds. Yet, Bok, you started a company not just once, but 6 times. Why did you do that?
Well, I was part of a startup team. It wasn't just me. I was part of a startup team.
Okay.
Maybe 2 comments. First comment about failure, because fails happen. You never feel good about failing. Don't get me wrong here. I mean, you don't say bang and then move on. I mean, it hurts. Okay. But every time I failed, I tried to learn something from that and do better the next time. So you do your best. And my view is always this about startups. Okay. I've succeeded, but I've been lucky in my success. There are many people who work as hard as me, or smarter than me, or as smart as me, more articulate than me, and they were in the startup that didn't make it. And so a lot of success is 60%. I'll say, pick the number, 60% your effort, success, and achievements. Other 40% is luck. And I can tell you so many examples of being in the right place at the right time, or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I look at myself as being successful or not successful, and I say I was worked just as hard and just smart in either cases, and it was either the wrong choice in terms of the wrong product, or the wrong market segment, or you wind up somewhere and some big company comes in and crushes you. That happened. Those things you can't control. All you can control is what you do and choices you make, and you hope those are the right choices. But I never let that affect me. I'll say negatively on myself. That is, I say, as long as you're doing analysis, what did I do right and what did I do wrong? So next time I do this, I don't repeat the same mistake. Because startups can be fun. It is a lot of fun. Okay, when you are successful, it's a lot of fun, whether you succeed or fail. It's more fun when you succeed, but it's a lot of fun.
What was the most fun part of all your startups?
What's the most fun part?
Yeah.
So in all the startups that I did, okay, I always looked at one of 2 things. It is you want to go into a new market to help create. So creating a new market where there wasn't one before is just fun. And being in the beginning of some change. I never did anything with like a Me Too thing. I'm just Me Too just because a little bit better or a little bit cheaper. That wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for things where I could make an impact, and that's the way I always looked at things. Where can I make an impact? And somehow, if I'm successful, that impact be important. And
on the flip side, what's the most challenging part?
well, I can tell you something difficult.
Mhm.
I'll tell you one story, and that wasn't fun, but it was something that had to be done, and it challenges you. Okay,
Mhm.
so we were in a startup. I was the one of the 6 people starting company, and it started by an MIT professor, and he was CEO. And we got funding, and we were growing, and we had maybe at that time, and we just got our just about just kind of getting near FCS, near first commission ship.
Mhm.
So we're getting there, but he was a terrible president. He was horrible, and I won't tell you all the details, but um, but um, it was the feeling of everybody who worked for him that we were not going to be successful with him as president, and because he was a professor and an engineer, I'll put it that way. And
Yeah.
for example, professors like to talk about things
Mhm.
forever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's hard to make decisions. You
Yeah.
talk about the pros and cons, and the pros and cons, and the pros and cons, and he didn't know how to drive decisions, so it made decision making very hard. Okay, the other the other thing is as a professor, you want to be that you're always showing you're the smartest person in the room, right? That's your professor.
Mhm.
And he tried to do this with customers. Um, and he would insist that he would know more than they did. And
Mhm.
that led to arguments, not presentations. Very difficult. Okay.
Mhm.
We were sitting there, and so he needs help. And so I had to go talk to him and saying, "You're failing as CEO. Here's the things you're doing wrong. We need to get a coach for you to be if you want to be CEO, we need to get a coach." Okay. And that was a really hard, I mean, it was a really hard conversation that I had with him. Okay.
Mhm.
But in the end, he said, "Okay, fine, I'll get a coach."
Mhm.
We got a coach for 6 months, and he wasn't getting any better. And I had to talk to the board chair and say, the CEO is failing. You know, this is me. I'm not the CEO. I'm the VP of marketing. And for me to do that puts my job at risk. You basically said, because the board chair could say, "Buck, he's the CEO, you're out of here." But the board chair saw it too. Okay. And they said, "Fine, we'll go hire another CEO." So they put together, but the CEO was in charge of the search. Who's put through. Well, after 3 months, nothing was happening. And so I asked the CEO at a um, at a staff meeting. I said, "What's happening?" He said, "Don't worry. Actually, the board thinks we can delay it till we do the first come ship." I knew that wasn't true because I talked to the board chair, and I said in staff meeting, "Mike, I don't think that's true. I want to talk to the board chair." He said, "Okay, go." Now and this is crazy. This is not fun.
Mhm.
Okay. But you do it because the company will, everybody, my feeling was, you know, your company's going to fail with him as CEO. So I talked to the board chair, and the board chair said, "Buck, you're exactly right. Yeah. We're not delaying things. We asked him to do a search, and he's not doing a search. We'll, and what they did is the next week they put a board, board member as interim CEO and replaced him. You know, this is not, first of all, it's not fun. Um, and and I was, trust me, I was scared to do it, but it was something I had to do because if I didn't think I had to, if I didn't do it, we'd be screwed.
Where did you get the courage to do that?
Actually, the back to this is the reason I did that, okay, was the prior week I had my staff meeting, and again, and these are the marketing people, sales people who saw Mike arguing with customers. you know, you know, you're trying to get to big deals, and he's arguing. I say, and we have to recover from it. Okay, so we're in a staff meeting, and they all said, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do, Buck? This is not working." I felt my response, and the courage came from my responsibility to my people. And I said, "I got you into this mess. I'll get you out."
Elon Musk called his recent launch explosion a successful failure. Do you have an example of those successful failures?
Give you a real life example. I mean, it's probably let's start this way. The last startup I was involved in was, and I won't tell you all the details, but it was Andiamo. It was out of a spin out of Cisco. Okay, and and um, the whole idea was spinning out of Cisco, and they hired me to be CEO. They spun out an engineering team and money, and then I was stuck in the CEO to run the place. Um, and the whole idea was to create a product, a data center switch, basically a new product for Cisco in a new market that Cisco is not in. And Cisco is a direct sale company that is sold directly to customers. And the idea was to take this product and sell it directly to Google or Intel, not Google or Amazon Web Services, or Amazon, or who else, the data centers, selling data centers directly, because Cisco is a 95% direct sale company. Okay? And they have a whole business. They have a whole sales force geared toward direct selling. So so the product was beginning to be built, and so we started going out to customers, and customers basically are saying, we don't buy direct these things. We buy these as part of a bundled system from IBM or from HP or from various companies. And so no, we don't buy individual pieces and put together. We buy them from these companies that basically provide system integration of these big data centers for us, and buy that from them. So Cisco, so basically said, so we can't sell to them. We have to sell to an IBM. We have to sell to EDS. And so we had to shift the entire business model into, instead of direct selling, indirect selling. And so we had to build. So we didn't realize we had to build this. We had to build a whole new indirect sales organization that Cisco hadn't intended to build to make it successful. So the whole idea of selling direct these products didn't work because it's like Cisco in spinning us out. It's like, every hammer everything looked like a nail. If you're a hammer, everything looked like a nail, right? So their direct sales organization, they figured every opportunity is direct sale. Not true. It was all indirect sales. So they had to basically build a new sales organization to sell indirect these products in the product. So it really was a business model change. And we were acquired by Cisco, and Cisco had to readjust its business model to accommodate our business.
You were the vice president at Cisco. Why did you prefer startups over climb the corporate ladder?
I have fun growing things, growing businesses, and learning new stuff, learning new challenge, being challenged, okay, and learning about new products or new markets and things like that. And I'll contrast it, okay, for a second. At Cisco, actually, I was a very good general manager. I had my division, and we were acquired, and I ran for 4 years. And while there, we're the fastest growing. We're the fastest growing division in terms of business at Cisco. Okay, and that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun. Okay, growing. But on the other hand, I was kind of doing the same thing every quarter. It was kind of dealing with Cisco and So it was a challenge for me to do that inside Cisco, and lots of fun doing. But it's not as fun as taking a small company and by yourself and growing it and growing, you know, inventing everything. In Cisco, you're as I mean, even though we're $1 billion division at Cisco, Cisco is a $40 billion business. Okay? And yes, I kind of ran it like my own business, and I did. I still had to deal with the other bureaucracy, and the pain in the butt to manage to deal with that. And that's another. I can tell you about that if you want. It was like managing inside a big company or a small company. When you're a small company, everybody it's survival. Okay, if you and everybody is focused on the same goals. Okay, and people work really hard and are really committed. Okay, and that's fun to have lead a team where everybody knows and working together and they're good, and and everybody knows it, and everybody's aligned, and there's very little conflict. Okay, in a big company, I'm one division out of, pick a number, 20, 30, and all of us are focused on our market segment. Okay, so you have a team, all of which is focused on, generating the good for Cisco, but sometimes my goals are different than another division's goals, right?
Mhm.
And so we all have different priorities, and
Mhm.
that's harder. I mean, you still have priority for Cisco and the company and stuff like that, but you're also dealing with people in manufacturing, for example. They're focused on minimum inventory, right? My focus is on getting the inventory on time to customers. Sometimes those are two different goals, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you negotiate those goals outcomes with a small company, and you survive. And the other thing is you survive either way. Okay, and you'll do well. Okay, Cisco is not going to go away, but when you're a company, everybody knows is if you screw up, it's everybody depends on you, and you depend on the person next door, and so the goals are aligned perfectly.
What advice do you have for Asian thinking of their own startups?
My advice is always this when people ask me, and I'll take my perspective. Okay, so two different advices for somebody in a young, a newbie, a young, a 20-year-old versus a 30-year-old. Okay, um, a 30-year-old, they have a nice cushy job, they're doing well. Okay, and you have a group of friends and your manager, blah blah blah. Okay, if you go out to a startup and you fail, okay, you have your friends who still know you're good. You can get a generally you can get a good job in a month or a week or a month or 2 months or something. You can get the same job you had before, if not a little better. Okay, so if you fail, it hurts the ego. I mean, and some of that's a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
But you can get the same job back.
Mhm.
And your career may be delayed by a year or two, right? Because now got to go in, got to prove yourself, but you can get the same job or a little bit better. And I mean a little bit better is if you learn something here, then there may be another industry you can get in, right? Um, um, but you can get the same job better. For the young guys, if they do a startup, they're so young, it's not going to matter. First, I'll say, and my perspective is this: the first 2 or 3 years of your work, maybe in 4 years of your work, it doesn't matter, because you're going to get another individual. You're going to get an individual um, contributor job, and start. Again, you'll suffer maybe 1 or 2 years in career development, but you probably learn more. That you probably more value because you learn a little bit more, and you're more interested. You can get a better job.
Mhm.
So again, in terms of career development, maybe a year, and it's sure you wasted a year. So what? I mean, looking back, and I tell my kids this, and in looking at when they're making decision when they're 22, 23. I said, it doesn't matter when you're 40. You're going to look back and say, why did I worry about that when I'm 22? It doesn't matter over a long period of time. Understand if you're good, you'll get a job, and in particular with startups, and certainly in the valley, failing at a startup is not seen as a personal failure, because there are enough people failing at startups.
Thank you, Mark, for sharing your insights. I have 3 main takeaways from our conversation. First, reframe the challenge as opportunity. Second, don't take a business failure too personally. Third, my favorite one, put a dent in universe and have fun. Thank you again, Buck. To everyone watching, thank you. Will we present more Inside Asian Success? Stay tuned.